I'm going to show you my electronics room. It's in the furnace room of our house. Not a very big room, but I make up for it by filling it to the rafters with radios, but a lot of test equipment. I am a test equipment junkie. I'm also notoriously untidy. I have made no attempt to tidy this up for this little tour. So, welcome to my room. Enter at the bottom of the stairs. First thing you'll see as you come in is my auxiliary bench. I'll come back to that a little bit later. And as you continue walking in, you start to see where all the magic happens. We walk up and see my bench, magnifiers because I'm old and my eyes aren't as good as they used to be. And then we're going to pan from right to left. To the right here, you can see my racks and racks of parts, mostly reasonably well organized. Parts of all different vintages. As we look actually at the bench, we see there's drawers of more modern parts, transistors, integrated circuits, things like that. I have resistors and capacitors elsewhere. This is my bench. You can see a chassis suspended from the ceiling. That is, I will talk about the suspended chassis approach later in the slideshow. Continuing to pan to the left. This is my main rack of equipment. I have an RLC meter, a very good quality RLC meter, which is invaluable for measuring components, make sure they're good. On a digital scope that I don't use very much because I prefer the analog scopes, a 2.7 gigahertz synthesizer, a spectrum analyzer to 110 megahertz, function generator, my main scope, which is TEC 454. Further on, I have a computer. You can see the function generator and some tools on the wall. Here you can see, I have an electrolytic capacitor reformer, which is always on, always reforming a capacitor. So I have a good stock of reformed electrolytics. Transistor tester, which I use occasionally for transistors. Newly acquired high voltage power supply. A couple of frequency counters down at the bottom, and a curve tracer, which is a wonderful instrument for many things, very versatile. The main rack, again, I talked about this a little bit. That's my RLC meter, and above it I have a stabilized 10 megahertz source, which is locked to CHU, which is Canada's time signal station, not far from here. I have a capacitor series resistance tester and a clamp-on DC ammeter, which is a very, very useful tool for tracing down leakage currents and making sure that your capacitors aren't shorted. Again, further down in the main rack, I think I talked about these things already. To the left of the main rack, again, my oscilloscope, that Heathkit high voltage power supply, which is as new to me, but is very, very useful. I've talked about all these things. Now on my auxiliary bench, I have another TEC scope, which is broken, but still works. One channel is broken badly, but the other one works. A synthesizer to about 1 gigahertz and a network analyzer to 1.3 gigahertz. Let me tell you a little bit about my technique for working on radio chassis. I like to suspend the chassis from the ceiling. I usually suspend them upside down so that I can get an easy view and easy access both to the chassis underside where the components are and to the top side where there's usually adjustments and tubes that need to be pulled out and things like that. And it means the weight of the chassis is never borne by a can or some IF can or some sort of wiggly support underneath that can fall and cause damage to the chassis. It is securely held by 3 chains, always 3 chains from the ceiling. Allows you to move it around back and forth. You can even flip it upside down, right side up if you're a little bit careful. The big challenge is getting the chassis up there in the first place. I usually use C-clamps around 3 places around the chassis, although some chassis have little holes that I can use to string the chain through. It also affords you access to the bench below the chassis in case you're perhaps too lazy to clean the bench. Here's a top view of the suspended chassis. And this is what it looks like underneath. A chassis that I was working on, a Stromberg Carlson, as I recall. You can see I can get to all the tubes and the transformers easily. And as we move up, you can see I can get into all parts of this chassis without any difficulty. I'm tall. This puts at a very good level for my eyes. I also have under my desk on drawer slides, I have a tube tester that I can pull out when I need it. Above the bench, I have a high voltage power supply. Don't use it too much anymore, but it's there if I need it. And storage. There is some method to my madness. I have lots of storage in this room, both here next to the bench and back towards the door. And I have lots of, well, enough space for my collection of test equipment and radios and what have you. And that's what it looks like. And that is my man cave. Thank you.